The White House is firing back at the new congressional investigation of President Trump. The House Judiciary Committee is looking for evidence of corruption, abuse of power, and obstruction of justice. The Trump administration calls the investigation disgraceful and abusive. Our senior congressional correspondent, Mary Bruce, covering the showdown on Capitol Hill. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, George. Well, in a far-reaching move, House Democrats are now demanding information from 81 people and groups that they believe can shed information on the president's campaign, his business dealings, and his presidency. The Democrats argue that they have a duty to conduct such vast oversight, but in a blistering statement, the White House says this is nothing more than a shameful and pathetic political hit job. This morning, the White House is fighting back, blasting Democrats and their deepening investigation into the president, calling it a disgraceful and abusive investigation into tired false allegations, and claiming the Democrats are not after the truth, they're after the president. But just hours before, the president did vow to cooperate.
Are you going to cooperate with Mr. Nadler?
I cooperate all the time with everybody. And you know the beautiful thing? No collusion. It's all a hoax.
The chairman of the House Judiciary Committee says Democrats are just doing their job.
We are talking about a situation where for 2 years the Republican Congress did no oversight on the administration. None. They in fact acted as shields for the administration for whatever they wanted to do. We have to protect the rule of law. And that's what we're doing here. And
he says they're already receiving responses. His committee now requesting information from 81 people and entities close to the president, including his sons, Don Jr. and Eric, and son-in-law Jared Kushner. Some of Trump's closest former aides and advisors like Steve Bannon, Hope Hicks, and former White House counsel Don McGahn, his current campaign manager Brad Parscale, and the Trump Organization's chief financial officer Allen Weisselberg. The sweeping investigation explores everything from the firing of former FBI Director James Comey to hush money payments to Stormy Daniels to contacts between the Trump campaign and the Russians, and whether Trump and his family are profiting from the presidency. Now, Democrats on the Hill are also making clear they want to get to the bottom of what really happened between those meetings between the president and Russian President Vladimir Putin. They are demanding to speak to anyone who had any kind of insider access to those private conversations that we still don't know anything about, including those interpreters, George.
Right, and those are separate committees. Mary Bruce, thanks very much. Let's bring in our chief legal analyst, Dan Abrams, for more on all this. Chairman Nadler did not use the word. They're very careful about not talking about impeachment, but that's what this investigation is, at least a preliminary impeachment investigation.
Right. They're calling it oversight, but what's the enforcement mechanism for oversight? In the end, it could potentially be impeachment. So they are looking now at whether there is evidence there to impeach. Now, a lot of this, they're going to know they have, right? They're going to know a lot of what's here. They now just want it officially on the record.
Documents have already been turned over to other authorities.
Correct. So when you're talking about these three buckets, this obstruction of justice, and then you've got the corruption, the new one, though, really is the abuse of power. That's one that Mueller hasn't looked into, no one else has really looked into, using the presidency for personal gain, abuse of power. Those are the sorts of things that could also be perilous.
And the White House says this is plowing over old ground, but the Congress has quite distinct responsibilities from the special counsel.
Right. The Congress is not trying to say there's a crime per se committed. When you're talking about A, either oversight, or B, potentially impeachment, what you're saying is that we think as a political matter that the president could be removed from office. Now, remember, we've been talking about this again and again on the legal front. We say, well, you know what? Most people believe that Robert Mueller could not indict a sitting president. The follow-up to that is because the only enforcement mechanism against the president is impeachment. That's what you would do. So if you view it that way, you kind of say, fair enough. Robert Mueller can't seek to indict the president, but then there has to be this other mechanism which is at least considered. Doesn't mean they have to impeach him.
There is going to be a huge fight over these documents, potentially.
Oh, huge. And they'll end up in the courts, I think, over person by person, document by document, over what has to be turned over.
Dan Abrams, thanks.